Thank you very much. We continue with the seminar. Our next panel is with the Minister of Commerce and Trade of the Pacific Alliance. Please welcome them with a warm applause. This is, as you maybe know, the Pacific Alliance first chapter is the commercial integration, and these four ministers have been working very hard on this process. As moderator from Financial Times, J.P. Rodman, please begin with the panel.
Thank you, Melvin. So on to the trade and nitty-gritty. I have here Cecilia Alvarez Correa, Minister of Commerce, Industry and Tourism from Colombia, Ministra Magalia Silva, Minister of Trade and Tourism from Peru, Ildefonso Guajardo, Secretary of the Economy from Mexico, and Pablo Uria, Director of Bilateral Economic Affairs at Didecon in Chile. So the secret is out, it's an open secret. MILA is a promising project that hasn't yet reached fruition, one hopes. But on the trade side, a lot has already been agreed. The removal of tariffs on 92% of goods, but this enters actually into vigencia in January 2016. Is that correct?
Maybe this year. We hope this year. In Colombia.
It's in the process of being approved. It is one of the...
It's in the process of being approved by our court. Okay. Constitutional Court.
Now, the question I want to put to all of the panel, first of all, is that the Pacific Alliance is an unusual trade pact in the sense that you all do much more trade with other groups or the world than in fact you do with each other. So will this be something that changes when tariffs are essentially removed on nearly all goods and the remaining 8% are phased out? Because this, after all, is about integration. Starting with Chile, because we're working in alphabetical order, is this how you see trade progressing and trade integration between the Pacific Alliance members?
So we think that the first challenge to have a concrete result from our integration, we need the full implementation of the commercial protocol, because we have bilateral agreement. When we start the process, we decide to create one single agreement in order to harmonize, to have the same rules, so and to create new possibility, because the agreement is very comprehensive. And obviously, we include the movement of goods, services, and capital. So I think the next year, the first challenge is in our country is the full implementation, because probably now we have enforced a bilateral agreement with most of the case. We have zero duty, but in the new protocol we have new instrument in order to really improve the integration, like accumulation of origin. This is the possibility to buy some raw material in order to add value and to have some more trade. So we believe that to have the opportunity, the new rules, in order to really increase our internal trade, we need to really, one of the challenges is to improve this internal trade, because now the figure is really enough. 4% is really...
Yes, Chile does 4% of its trade is...
No, internal trade between 4.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, because I think we have internal trade, bilateral trade, but now we are in an integration process, so the challenge is to increase the internal trade, first of all, and at the same time to reach more integration in order to go to the third market, especially in the Asia Pacific. So to really assess the impact of the agreement, we need sometimes to really know the real impact. But the commitment the next year is really to work so hard in order to full implementation of the agreements.
Okay, I mean, Cecilia, isn't it really a case that, I mean, Colombia and Peru and Chile especially, you're exporting similar goods. Mexico is a slightly different case. So how do you see trade integration carrying on from its very small levels at the moment?
Yeah, I think we have a great opportunity because our export, as you know, as President Santos said last night, they depend almost on commodities. So we have, in this crisis, we see it as an opportunity. And every day we are reaching more non-commodity goods to export within the alliance, where we are working on value chains, regulations, and facilitation of trade. So in order to insert our goods so we can export to Asia. We have no FTA to Asia. We are just in Korea. We just signed a free trade agreement, but we are moving to Japan. But these three countries, they have relation with Asia, so we can insert our goods in the value chain, so we can export through these three countries in order to go to Asia, because if not, we are not very competitive in exporting goods to Asia. So we look as really an opportunity to have the alliance working with us and the three countries that are more open than Colombia. So we came, you know, a little bit late to Asia, but these three countries, they have done much better than us. So we are now in this path to work with them in order to export to this intra-alliance, and also through them we go to Asia and other part of the world where we do not have free trade agreements.
Okay. Ildefonso, I mean, Mexico is obviously has a huge, strategically important trade relationship with the United States. How does the Pacific Alliance mesh with that?
Well, let me first start from a broader perspective. Today, the world is facing a decay in the growth in trade. I mean, we have seen the growth on trade in 2013 going from 3%, moving to a 3.5%. So it's much lower than the decade before that we were growing trade at around 5 to 6% per year. And that has had an impact in the growth rate of the world, in the GDP, in the world GDP. And all of us have to be aware that our strategies for integration and trade are essential tools to really push for the future. And if you see that the WTO is facing a very difficult Doha round, so the multilateralism is not going to help. Therefore, you see all these efforts of countries to really strengthen their integration and ties. And for Mexico, with a successful NAFTA, when we look at the numbers of exports from Mexico to Latin America, they have been growing very strongly in the last 3 years. When you see and you split emerging economies from developed economies, the fastest growing rates in trade are in emerging economies. So for Chile, Peru, Colombia, and Mexico to get together to strengthen their relationship, trade relationship, is also to send a signal that is a fresh wind going in Latin America, one that is different from the traditional countries that have been looking inwards to a group of countries that are looking outwards. And so I think it's one of the best bets that we can do. And when you look at the flows of foreign direct investment coming through our countries, it's extremely important. Either in mining, either in forestry from Chile to Mexico, either in steel from Mexico to Colombia. So our businessmen are looking into each economy's possibilities, and they are strengthening the capacities to really grow. Now, I will leave my comments here. We have tremendous challenges to make this a reality in terms of integration, but they go also to give us the challenge for public officers to think out of the box and see how we can break the traditional elements of logistics, communication, how we do connect our countries, and how we really process things together in global value chain. So I think that's the biggest challenge ahead.
Okay. I mean, Latin America, even the Pacific Alliance, is still a long way from the degree of trade integration you have in Asia, within Asia. And it's really a fraction. But Magali, you've talked about how integration with Mexico will be the driving force driving internationalization of Peruvian small companies. I think you were talking about, especially in the auto sector. Could you just give us a concrete example so that we can visualize this and have a clearer idea in our minds of actually what this process means?
Sure. So let me first thank all the people that are staying this late, because it's always lunchtime, and I really appreciate,
with this cold air.
And with this cold air, that's right. So it really appreciate you staying here, and let's go to the answer now. Exactly, you know, Peru is going through the diversification as all of us. We don't want to depend on oil prices or on copper, on gold, on silver, on commodity prices. We are diversifying our economies, so that means that we want a more a wider export supply. We need to diversify our markets, so we don't only depend on strategic markets. We are working on facilitating investment, and we also are working on capacity building, right? It's very important to the resource, the human resource. So in those 4 pillars that we are working on now, the Pacific Alliance has come to a point where, after the hard work that the trade ministers did for the past 2 years, right, trying to work to establish the 92%, as you mentioned, free of taxes, of tariffs, that will come to a point in January 2016. So in that sense, what we worked this year and very hard was to try to really connect with the global value chains, right? And in that sense, the SMEs are an extremely important part of the whole chain because they start there. So we've promoted, first of all, the Pacific Alliance have what they so-called macro ruedas de la Alianza del Pacífico. We've launched 3 events already. We negotiated more than 250 million over this past events. And, you know, starting at that point, we started to organizing specific fairs, fair trades, where we actually put demand and supply together, but in small groups. You mentioned the example of Mexico, and Mexico is a great example because, as you said, NAFTA is there, and the automobile industry is extremely developed in Mexico. So take into account the 4 countries are mining countries, and the labor and the specialization in the metal mechanic or in the steel industry is very high. Therefore, we identified niches where we connected those SMEs with the buyers or the supply and demand, as I said. So we identified the automotive that, for example, Peru exports parts and automobile parts for, let's say, brake system, right? So we took those SMEs to Mexico, and then we brought the buyers to Peru, and then make them go to the plants and just talk to the people. And the good thing about us, about SMEs, is the flexibility. So they can produce the parts and the parts to the systems, to the mechanical systems that they really need. And for that, we found, for example, as it was mentioned before, that we have to work more on the organic foods, for example. The 4 countries produce organic foods. And you would think, how would Colombia sell something to Mexico, or Mexico sell something to Chile, or Peru to the 3 countries? And we found niches, for example, the quinoa. In the case of Peru, we participated in one of the biggest fairs in Mexico, that are the final consumers fair, that we really received a prize in innovation for quinoa drinks that are energetic and a new presentation. So it's actually been really hard work to identify those niches. We're working with our commercial trade offices in each country, and the participation of the promotion agencies that the 4 countries have been a really big asset, because that means that we are focusing as a one team to find opportunities for all of us. And that really helped us in finding 3rd countries, right? As we learn how to work as a team, as a Pacific Alliance team, and you've seen that in different sectors, not only in the trade, but in tourism. Cecilia and I share the same interests, or we have the sector too under our offices, so that we learn how to find those opportunities to make it work. And as a final comment, that we're also working on the 3rd pillar that I mentioned, the interoperability of the single windows, right? The IDB has been extremely helpful to us, because it was mentioned before in the panel before that barriers, right, that we ministers would think that things work, but the private sector probably is not seeing that, because we see all those bureaucratic barriers that are impeding for us, or the operating systems are not working. And that's something that the Pacific Alliance has taken as a goal, that no more than in 2 years, the 4 systems will talk to each other. We will learn how to exchange data on customs that will facilitate the trade among the 4 countries.
Can I complement something?
Yes, of course.
Sorry. Yeah, but we need larger companies in order to, impulse these small and medium enterprise companies. Last time we were together in Paracas, the OECD gave us a study about what can we do with these small companies and how to help them, because, for example, in Colombia, 92% of our companies are SMEs, imagine, and they represent like 67 or 70% of our the employments in Colombia. So we have a big, a big thing to work with them. And if the largest company do not help us, it's going to be impossible for them to insert in the global value chains. So that's going to be a really quest to get the largest company to work with us and to try to insert their companies with these small companies in order to export to other countries and intra-alliance as well. So it's very important, the relationship between the largest company and the smaller companies as well.
It's slightly a chicken and an egg situation, because one reason for the Pacific Alliance is to create scale, to better export to Asia, but you need scale in order to create scale.
You have to break the circle in order to improve. But we are working on that. And the other things we're working on are the non-tariff obstacles. Those are the most difficult ones. Because you know the tariffs, you pay 5%, you pay 10%, but the regulations and non-tariff barriers are the ones really that make the problem for us to export in Trial Alliance and all over the world.
I mean, trade can get very technical, but one way I imagine a successful Pacific Alliance in the future would be, say, you could buy a bottled pisco sour in Beijing where the bubbles are made in Chile, the glass in Mexico.
The cell phone is an example.
The cell phone is an example. On non-tariff barriers, if there is a trade disagreement between one of the members, God forbid, how would that be resolved? What panel would that go to? The WTO? Would it go to member governments?
Inside. We're very friendly. We can resolve everything.
Yeah, we have 13 chapters.
There is, okay. So you're very friendly, but of course there's even friends disagree and need a firm hand to apportion correct measures. And if I was an exporter, say, from Chile, and I was having a problem with Peru, what would I do? Who would I go and see?
That's a bad example. There are no problems between us.
Yeah, of course there aren't, in any respect whatsoever. But
most difficult is Mexico, you know, with us. It's very strong.
I'm trying to sell trucks to her, and she will not buy them.
I want to.
And she wants to sell meat to me.
Beef to him.
And
meat.
my sanitary authority is giving
vegetarian.
a headaches on that. But and it's a true story. We drop $800 million of sales of heavy trucks of Mexico to Colombia, and we are trying to arrange that. And as a counterpart of an effort, I'm trying to lobby the Sanitary Authority of Mexico to lift a non-tariff barrier of entry into Mexican meat markets.
And how long has this disagreement, or whatever one wants to call it, been going on for?
For a while.
For a while. And a speedy resolution by the Pacific Alliance is surely that's part of the pragmatism. When can we look forward to it being settled?
No, I think we're working on that. We have a committee that is, the leader is Colombia, and we have made a lot of improvement in cosmetics. So we have resolved a lot of problems, and we are seeking to support us like 20 billion exports in revenues. That's a lot of money, so we're working on that. And we have another 8 items to work, so I think in a year we can have results on that. But remember that the protocol is not yet into force, but still we are working on that, and that's a big progress for us, because just for next year it's going to get into force. So.
Right.
Yes.
If you allow me, I just wanted to mention that one good thing about the Pacific Alliance is that from the beginning we worked at the three levels. You know, the government, us, to speed up the process, but the most important thing is that it mentioned the private sector. The Consejo Empresarial de la Alianza del Pacífico, CEAP, has been working at the same time, at the same speed, sometimes faster, and it has helped us to really work. And as you mentioned, all those examples that we have, like it was mentioned before by Luis, I think, from Mexico, that is the private sector that makes the Pacific Alliance come to reality, right? If we don't have a private sector that is ready, that is prepared, that is right next with the financing to speed up the process, that wouldn't have the success that the Pacific Alliances have. And the third element is the Congress, that we also have, as part of the Pacific Alliance, a group of all congressmen of all the 4 countries that have been participating in most of the meetings that we have. Right after, in the case of Peru, for example, after we come from our ministerial meetings, I always call them to my office to explain them that the progress that we have been making. And that has been one of the reasons why, in general, the Pacific Alliance is well accepted, is well understood in the Congress, and therefore has helped us to speed up the process in each of us in that legislative power.
What Magali wants to say is that it will be easier to pass Alianza Pacífico than TPP.
Yeah, well, I want to come on to TPP. Just a quick note about Magali made the good point about the cold and lunch, and we're going to try and speed up the sessions a little bit so that lunch comes earlier, and because we're going faster, we'll also be warmer. Now, Ildefonso, you raised the point of the TPP, which is quite a big deal, and Colombia isn't going to be part of that yet, we hope. Not for now. But how do you mesh Pacific Alliance agreements with the TPP? Is it possible to imagine the Pacific Alliance negotiating as a bloc? And what about rules of origin, which is a fantastically complicated process that can make your ears bleed almost?
I think that Pacific Alliance has proven to be a much more pragmatic trade agreement on the trade side than the TPP, because the trade protocol has been able to accomplish a lot without getting into any complexities of other issues that are not traditionally trade issues. Now, TPP is under this philosophy of high standards that include environmental charter, labor charter, intellectual property, that is more or less like challenging the traditional trade rules in Asia. In a way, is a way to really pull a group of countries together from the Americas, South Pacific, and Asia, and to show the world that there is a possibility to integrate a very large trading zone between two different continents into a 21st century type of agreement. Now, let me remind you that this started in 2008, Magali?
Actually, before.
2004.
2006. It was the three, with Chile, right?
And so it has been 9 years. And the trade protocol in Alianza Pacífico took us like 2.5 years. So they were at two different speeds, obviously with two different regions of the world. But at the same time, Alianza has also the accession possibility of opening and really moving fast forward. Now, TPP has the advantage of putting a block of countries in Asia together with the Americas and really to make a strong presence. On behalf of Mexico, I will tell you that our trade policy for the last 20 years has been basically focused on Europe, North America, and Latin America. Basically, the only country that we had a trade agreement with was Japan, and it was 10 years ago. So for Mexico, opening to Asia is a very important strategy. Chile and Peru and to some degree Colombia have had a lot of agreements with Asia, and for us is the first challenge that we are facing today to really how to integrate with Asia beyond Japan.
I want to open to the floor for any questions, in case anyone has a question, a burning issue they want to bring up, or even not a burning issue.
Not so burning.
Little fire, yeah. Yes, gentleman at the front.
My name is Ivan Rolledo, and my question is addressed to Minister Alvarez of Colombia. I wanted to ask you if you could update us on TPP and Colombia, and if you could update us on TPP and Colombia and where that's going, and when do you see adhesion?
No, we have to work on that. It's impossible to be out of that, but we are taking our time. But the president gave me the command to work on that, and we are working with a team. So it's going to get a few days and times, but we are going to be, yeah.
Colombia is using Mexico, Chile, and Peru as guinea pigs.
See how he's working with me? It's great.
This is clearly the light banter between good friends. All in good time then in Colombia. Any other question for the moment? Tourism, you want to make a point about tourism?
Yes, we have, I think tourism is quite important for us. Mexico, you know, is a great place, and since we signed the Pacific Alliance, our tourism, intra-tourism has grown 3 times from 2011 to 2014. And today, and this year, tourism in Colombia is increasing in 14%, while the rest of the world is increasing 4%. Imagine if Colombia signed peace. We have a great potential of that, and we want to sell the Pacific Alliance in tourism as a block, because nowadays people from all over the world come to the countries, and they don't only visit one country, but they visit many countries, various countries. So we are working with Magali and with Mexico and Chile on that, to sell the block as a destiny. And because it's very important now that we do not depend anymore on oil and commodities, tourism is the faster to grow on and really make use of the beautiful countries we have.
Magali, you have something you want to say?
Sure, yeah. Since I'm also Foreign Trade and Tourism Ministry, I also would like to recognize the United Nations, because it's the first time that tourism has been put under the goals of the Sustainable Development. In 3 of the goals, tourism is mentioned with a proper and direct name. And the second point that I just wanted to stress is that it's the first time that the World Tourism Organization has been invited to assist the World Trade Organization meeting that is going to take place during December in Nairobi, Kenya. So the thing that we are trying to put here to mention is that tourism is trade. That tourism is part of the balance of payment that has to be seen as a way to bring more income to our countries. And the Pacific Alliance has a big potential because among the 4 countries, we are completely complementary. And as Cecilia mentioned, that the way that tourism is going nowadays is facing an era where people are looking, are staying longer, are spending more, and that are trying to experience different opportunities to see, for example, you know, sorry that I mentioned, but we have tremendous possibilities to have big air and environmental tourism in Chile, and beaches, and also archaeological sites in Mexico and in Peru, and also in Colombia, that we can experience different things. And tourism is there as the world, the United Nations has recognized.
I want to pick you up on that, actually, about open skies, but it'll be my last question. I just want to see if anyone from the floor has a question they'd like to ask. Yes, at the back.
Hi, my name is Reinaldo Sandoval from PineBridge Investments, and my question is relating to the prior panel. A couple of the panelists spoke about the challenges to the free flow of capital. So I don't know if you can comment a bit on the specific initiatives you see for free flow of capital, specifically pension fund capital.
I think the question was about the free flow of capital from pension funds. Ildefonso? Although I think we're sort of dealing more with goods here, but...
No, but there is a point, even if I take a success story as NAFTA, today, thanks to the over-regulation of the banking system and the Basilea rules, we are facing a tremendous problem for financial operations between Mexico and United States. The level of scrutiny is making very difficult for business to have accounts and to convert and transfer money in an economy that is extremely linked. So today we are having a very difficult time trying to really, I'm talking about the North American integration. Now, if we are planning for this integration to be strong and fluid, we have to start having very, very efficient markets, financial markets, to really move capital and means of payment. Now, in this specific question, I believe that what they are looking today, the Ministers of Finance, is the possibility that our own regulations allow our pension funds to invest in Peru, Chile, or Colombia, like if they were being investing in Mexico. But you have to send those for change to Congress in order to allow those markets like if they were domestic markets in terms of risk and security. I mean, that's basically the comment on that.
So there's still quite a long way to go. There's always sand in the gears of free trade, and one bit of sand is I understand there isn't in fact an open skies agreement between all the Pacific Alliance members, and there are some rules on shipping that in fact make it difficult for cargoes to land in, say, a Mexican port to arrive from China to Mexico, say from Mexico to Peru. And this seems to me like a very fundamental building block that isn't in place. How is it and when is it going to be resolved? And after this question, then we'll move on to the next panel.
Well, actually, and very quick, because Chile also has an answer, that we decided, you know, among the ministries and also the presidents, that we're going to establish a working group which actually has to deal with the permissions that have to be launched by the Ministry of Transportation in the case of Peru, and we have to complete that technical group in order, obviously, to go to open skies.
Okay, so the technical issue. Pablo, do you want to add something to that?
Probably could be the opportunity to highlight, because one of the characteristics of Pacific Alliance is to try to reach a specific agreement on different issues that is important on trade and investment and movement of services. But we have some principle, late harvest, so very flexible and pragmatic approach. So if we can reach very quickly an agreement, so we continue with other issues. So probably one open sky is not an easy issue. So we are starting discussion this issue at the beginning, but if it is not possible to continue, okay, try to find the right moment in order to progress and to have but the idea is to move more quickly where we can reach more quickly consensus, because that is the idea.
The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak, or something like that. Alfonso?
No, basically, I think that we have a big challenge in order to make logistics work in the most efficient way. The example that you were giving, if a vessel is coming from China, a big vessel with cargo for Mexico, Peru, Chile, or Colombia, if they come to Mexico and they bring some merchandise, they have space in that ship to take Mexican cargo into Lima. Today, our law will not permit that. Neither of the countries will permit that because it's called cabotaje. So we need to really be very bold and change those type of regulations, because it will be very efficient that you use the facilities and infrastructure to really move cargo and do the integration and logistics of integration an easy process. And so it is either in planes or cargo or railroads when it can be the idea. So I think that we have a lot of work to do in order to facilitate logistics to allow the integration that we want to make possible.
Okay, so in summation, the spirit is willing, but old habits die hard, but there is still effort being made to do that. So moving now onto the last panel, which will be about economic and business opportunities, hosted by my colleague Jude Weber. Thank you very much, and also to the panelists.